And the spirit of Ultimate Warrior will run forever!
Kyle here, and it is Saturday, and you know what that means. It's time for all the toy news, action figure news of the week that interested me, that hopefully interests you, and possibly the slowest toy news week of the year so far this week, which isn't a bad thing for your wallet, and my wallet included, as it's been an expensive couple of weeks for a lot of us. San Diego Comic-Con, summertime, kids going back to school, a lot of things getting into our wallet this time of year, so if it's a little bit slower, hey, guess what? That's not a bad thing after all. And it was a slow week in the toy news. Wasn't a slow week around these parts here. A lot going on. Good friend of the channel, Jeff George, just dropped him off at the airport about an hour ago. He was here this week. We went to the State Fair. We went to the Motley Crue concert. We went to lunch with John 5. We did a lot of different stuff this week. It was a wild week. More on that in a future video, and a little bit more on that in the weekly purchases video tomorrow. So if you want to hear all about a little Motley Crue, a little bit of a wild week, you'll get to hear about that in the weekly purchases. So mark your calendars for Sunday, or of course earlier on Patreon. And speaking of Patreon, of course, we got our monthly giveaways. It is the month of August. This month's traditional Patreon giveaway is the Novin, you know what I mean, lean. We're doing that gangster lean with Novin lean, of course, part of Cosmic Legions. That is the giveaway this month on the Patreon, of course. But we're not done there. Anybody that signs up for the Patreon for the month of August, any of the tiers, you get entered to win this Britt Baker, of course, Target exclusive Britt Baker AEW figure. So check out the Patreon. Tons of content there every single day. Bonus content. You get the drill by now. Check out the Patreon. Support the channel. Thank you guys very much. But let's dive into some stuff. Let's see what's going on. And I guess a little bit more housekeeping this week. Two video cast podcasts that I did over the last couple of months finally did come out. Collectibles.com. Check out Collectibles.com. A new site that's getting up and running. Some powerful backers behind that one. We did do an interview on that site. So Collectibles.com. Check out my interview over there this week. And also Your Childhood Was Trash podcast. Check that one out. Of course, Talking Jakks Classic Superstars book. Collectibles.com, Talking Jakks Classic Superstars book. And just collecting in general, my thoughts on collecting, my history on collecting. Check both of those places out wherever your podcasts are found. Of course, YouTube as well, a good place to check. You might be familiar with it. Maybe, maybe not. But that is the housekeeping. Got all that. Like I said, a lot more on the Wild Week over in weekly purchases. We'll dive into that a little bit more. And a big weekly purchases coming this week. Way too big weekly purchases. That's the way it goes from time to time, as we do know. But let's dive into the news. And this week, we're starting off with Mondo. Mondo, one of the ones that really grabs the money out of your wallet, is very expensive figures. But man, oh man, do I enjoy those figures. Trying to figure out currently where to display those. Actually, just got my floors finished. I talked about that the last couple of weeks. Got a big IKEA delivery today, so I got some plans, some work. Hopefully I can get that done this weekend. Not going to count on it. Hopefully in the next week or so. Maybe I'll film the process. And if you guys have ever seen my collector room tours, I've done a few of those tours. Probably do another tour maybe towards the end of the year. Stay tuned for that. But I never did show off my horror collection, music collection, things like that. So maybe I finally do just a separate video of that area. I've never done it. And since we're redoing that area right now, maybe it's time to do that. I don't know. We'll see what happens. We'll see if there's any interest out there. But a lot going on in that kind of a landscape. But I'm thinking, mentioning that space, putting my Mondo figures in there. So we'll see what ends up happening there. But this week, pre-order did go up, of course, through August 23rd. So it's a timed edition. It is Mondo Thundercats, the first go around the sun with Thundercats in the Mondo scale, of course. We've been collecting He-Man, we've been collecting X-Men over here. Now here we are with Lion-O from the Thundercats. Of course, Snarf included, 5 different heads. You can make King Lion-O. Absolutely amazing looking figure. We saw it at San Diego Comic-Con as well. I want to get this so bad, but there's something in my brain. Yes, right up in here, about this spot in my brain, telling me, Kyle, pass on this Lion-O. And I don't want to pass on the Lion-O, but I don't like the money, obviously. I don't like paying that much money for these. And thinking about it, I want Lion-O, but then, of course, you got Mumra around the corner, and he's going to be more expensive. And then all of a sudden, Chitara's here. Then Bengali's coming in hot. And then Jaga and Groon. And then they're going to make a deluxe Scythe. And it's just going to be down the rabbit hole. And as much as I love the Mondo figures, like I said, they're big figures. They're shelf killers. There's something to be said about a Super 7 or a Marvel Legend. Hey, 25, 50 bucks, whatever. It is what it is. But man, those Mondos, they add up in price. They add up in space. I don't know if I got it in me to go down the road of the Thundercats, since I'm already too deep to turn around in the Masters, too deep to turn around in X-Men. Do I have room for Thundercats? And we all got to ask ourselves those questions, especially on big properties like that. You can, smaller figures, you can kind of hide and mix around and get a lot more on a shelf. These Mondos, you cannot. And nobody wants a shelf. Say it's a Billy Bookcase shelf and putting 15 Mondos on one shelf. That doesn't work. That's not what they're about. So I'm honestly thinking about skipping on that. I'm honestly thinking about skipping out on the Ghostbusters. As much as I want those, especially that Boogeyman, I just don't know if it's going to be in the cards for me. So more to come on that. But I gotta say, that Lion-O does look amazing. And part of me says, maybe just get Lion-O and Mumra. But I know my collecting brain, I probably can't do that. So maybe it's better not to get in at all. I know we've all been there with different collections over the years. Chime in with your collection you got that dilemma in your head with. But for me right now, it's those Mondo Thundercats. I'm just in too deep with X-Men and He-Man, and I think that's the way it's going to stay. But we'll see. You can always change your mind, I guess. But man, hard times, disappointment, that's just the way it goes, though, in the old collecting game, in the life game. Nothing's fair, as we do know. That's the way it goes. But if you're into this Lion-O, looks amazing. A lot of good goodies with this one as well. You could literally buy multiples of this and just make them different figures if you really wanted to as well. So looking very, very nice over there in the Mondo land. But now, moving on to a little bit of wrestling this week, and a very slow wrestling news. No Mattel, no AEW, no really anything going on. Just a little bit of retro news, and we're accustomed to retro news every single week. We did get Grapplers and Gimmicks showing off on Friday, the fabulous Rougeau brothers, and one of the tag teams that should have had an LJN, probably should have had a Hasbro, definitely should have had a Jakks Classic Superstars, should have had a Mattel Elite by now. None of those ever happened, but old Mitch over there at Grapplers and Gimmicks, he's bringing out the Rougeau brothers. Got to think going to be one of the coolest ones. If they're just as good as the Quebecers, they're going to be amazing figures. So very excited about that. And then a little bit off subject with Grapplers and Gimmicks. Got to give a special shout out to Mitch over there. Mitch Hassel Toys. He gets a hard time on a lot of people for the internet, but I think at the end of the day, everybody loves him at the end of the day. He's a lovable guy, of course, as we know. But unfortunately, his wife did pass away this week. Just very sad. I can only imagine him and his son. Obviously, not a good look right there. So, got to give your shout out to Mitch this week. Everything he's going through over there can't be easy for him. So, shout out to Mitch and shout out to the Rougeau brothers as well. We did see, speaking of retros, this is one, and we're going to talk more about this in weekly purchases tomorrow. Rush Collectibles. About a year plus ago, we unboxed some of those retros. Not terrible on some, and a couple like Larry Zbyszko just crumbling into dust in front of our eyes. That wasn't a good look at the table. But they're back this week, Rush Collectibles, with a Donald Trump retro figure. And I don't know if you can polarize your audience any more than a Donald Trump figure or any kind of political figure. And who's got time for politics when there's so much action figures to dive into and so much heavy metal music to listen to? That's what I always say. But Donald Trump is coming from Rush Collectibles. Going to be a weird thing here because how do you get around the legalities of this? I'm not exactly sure how that goes. I don't know if he's just trying to fly under that radar, but he is coming out with a Donald Trump retro. So if for whatever reason you want to mix that in, it's of course wrestling related. We all remember his stint at WrestleMania, shaving Vince McMahon's head, and of course going all the way back to like WrestleMania 4 and things like that as well. He's been around at WrestleMania 5. 4 and 5, maybe? I think that's what it was. But Donald Trump, a guy that's been around the wrestling business as well. So if you're after a Donald Trump for retro, you want to put it with your old school Hasbros, looks like Rush Collectibles is going to do a special pre-order with a bonus trading card. Oh my goodness. So Donald Trump coming in the retro form. I guess everybody's getting a retro this day and age. I guess that's the way it's going there. Moving on to another one that's been peeking around, apparently finally starting to ship, and I am being told, but of course by the owner of the company, he's going to send me one to check out on the channel, so I'm always excited to unbox a figure on the channel, and I will. True Wrestling Evolution is the toy line. It's a very interesting line here. So we've seen EC3 carded images. Looking interesting here. Of course, pinless joints, you know I'm about that. It looks a little bit Ultimate style. I guess not all the Ultimate articulation, but you don't got the traditional ab crunch. You got more of the hula hoop going on. But we see the EC3 figure, and they even did comparisons on his website showing EC3 versus Mattel and some other properties, which is pretty cool to give the consumer what they want to know. I mean, you want to and whenever you have a new toy line, you want to compare it to other lines that are very similar, just so the consumer can know what's going on. And I think they did a good job on that one there. We're getting A7s, we're getting Aaron Stevens, Congo Kong, EC3, which we mentioned, and then Preston Riker. So some indie stars. I guess they're all somewhat indie stars. Some bigger names than others, but it's going to be an interesting toy line here. And like I said, I'm going to get some of these. We will take a look at these here on the channel. Constant learning, constant improvement. That's the way these always go. First series, always you get the bugs out. You kind of work through it, what works, what's not working. So it'll be a very interesting line. It'll be interesting to see where they move into in Series 2. But we'll check them out here on the channel. I'm always up to check out any action figures. You guys know that by now. So more on that when we get a True Wrestling Evolution.
Whoa, 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 stop the clock. Late breaking news from Mattel on a Friday afternoon. 8:22, 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 Central, noon Eastern Time. The brand new official Retro 4-pack. Of course, Mattel Creations exclusive. You got Shawn Michaels. You got the British Bulldog. You got Alundra Blaze. And you got Isaac Yankem, DDS.
And then this week, we're finishing off the toy news. Yes, you heard it right. We're finishing off the toy news. We're only like 10 minutes into this video. It's absolutely wild. It's a slow week, which, like I said, not a bad thing. But we got to turn our attention to old Todd McFarlane on the couch. And Mark Summers is dozing off. Mark, you had a long week, too. Jeff George absolutely wore out Mark Summers. He kept just saying, because I don't know if you guys know this, Jeff George, massive Double Dare fan, and he was asking him all the questions. He wanted to find out all the backstage stuff, what was going on, who was cooking up the slime, what was going on with that big nose, you have to pull the flag out, was that fun, what was inside there? Jeff was asking him all the questions. And Mark, you're wore out. You're absolutely exhausted between the dogs, trying to keep track of them, getting all these kids that are underage for these action figures, and then Jeff George at the same time. Mark Summers absolutely spent, just tired. He's barely keeping his eyes open. Hard times for Mark Summers. Mark, you can get sleep up this week and you can rest. We got a busy week next week, Mark and I got a huge week. More on that in the channel very soon. But Todd McFarlane, the dagger's going straight to you. We got to talk McFarlane Toys. Not your biggest week, but you got a lot of stuff out there this week. So let's dive into some Todd McFarlane stuff. Todd, we saw this, and I think I was the first one to post this one, but I don't think anybody really cared. I think that's the thing. It's The Walking Dead, the little Walking Dead figures coming back from McFarlane Toys, getting a little bit of a re-release, a few tweaks it looks like, especially in the packaging department. But if you miss those Walking Dead figures from the TV series many moons ago, they are coming back. They're up for pre-order right now. Entertainment Earth. Use the link in the description below. Use discount code Kyle. Save yourself 10% all in-stock items. Anything over $59 does ship free. Or you can hit a Big Bad Toy Store, the usual places like that. But the Walking Dead figures are coming back. And one that really got me interested, but I was, I think, sleeping when the pre-orders went up and everything pretty much sold out. It is the Batmobile Glow in the Dark from Batman Forever. Now, if you're a keen watcher of Kyle Peterson 2.0, and if you're not watching my other YouTube channel, you better subscribe to that thing right now. I will wait. I'll wait. Hold on, I'm going to just keep waiting. Got a monster. That's what fuels Kyle's, as we do know. A little monster. It's like my 5th one of the day, so you got to just keep them going. You just got to keep those monsters going, just like you got to keep subscribing to Kyle Peterson 2.0. I might as well subscribe to this one as well. But the Batman Forever line, we did unbox those over there on Kyle Peterson 2.0 this week. Check those out. I love Batman Forever as a kid. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I did enjoy Batman Forever. I thought Jim Carrey Riddler, Tommy Lee Jones' Two-Face were awesome. I really enjoyed the movie. So very cool to get those properties in action figure form. Well, now we can get the Batmobile with Alfred Pennyworth. Oh, Alfred's coming with that Batmobile. And it's glow in the dark. Would be a great centerpiece for that, of course, glow in the dark closet I'm working on. So that is up for pre-order now. A shade over $100, I think, is the price on that. So if you're after more Batman Forever, that's the place to go. But we also saw the latest and greatest DC collection from McFarlane Toys. Of course, 3 in a wave here, kind of, with a little asterisk. We did get Batman from The Dark Knight Returns. Very cool Batman. Once again, we've seen this body many a times. Getting the most out of your molds. That's what you do, Todd. You get the most out. We know. Huntress coming. First time in the line, if I'm not mistaken there. So get a little female flavor there. A lot of people dogging on you, Todd. They think you hate female figures. He just speaks the truth. And I know. People say they want female figures until they hit the shelves, and then just doesn't happen. It's just the way it goes. I don't know. I can't explain it. I'm just saying, here's what I see with my eyes. Here's what Todd sees with his eyes. But he got pretty beat up about that, of course, as we do know. But Huntress coming to the line as well. And then we're not done yet. We got the Green Lantern ×4. Really? I don't like this one, Todd. I'm going to tell you, I'm a Green Lantern guy. I love some Green Lanterns. But you got to buy multiples of these because between the regular and Platinum Edition, you got 4 different Green Lantern heads. So I guess if you can just find one Platinum Edition at least, you can buy extra bodies of the other one. Use that head from that Platinum, bring it over. I guess you can do it that way, work a little bit of smoke and mirrors magic, but it's going to make you buy it. It is truly a Green Lantern army builder. Going to be looking really cool, though, on the Green Lantern shelf. We've got a lot of lanterns in the past, especially John Stewart. You're in love with John Stewart. 50 John Stewarts, no Guy Gardners. And I get it. Nobody likes that haircut. Nobody liked it then. Nobody likes it now. But I feel like we need to get a Guy Gardner eventually. And Todd, please promise me you're going to work on that. Wiggle your little toes. Both of them at the same time, but none of the other toes. Oh, that middle toe's wiggling. Oh, there it is. He got it. He got both little toes wiggling at the same time. That means we're getting a Guy Gardner when? 2025 Guy Gardner. Said right here from the couch by Todd McFarlane's toes to my mouth. To your toes in my mouth? Something like that. But you know what I mean. Guy Gardner coming in 2025. But 4 different lanterns technically right here. Going to be pretty cool. Up for pre-order now, of course. All the usual suspect places I just listed earlier. DJC Collectibles, don't forget them either. So a lot going on with McFarlane as normal. We're used to it by now. But that is it for the week. That's the toy news of the week. Not a whole lot going on. Like I said, it was a slow week, which is great for our wallets. So the little things in life, the little celebrations here. You can figure some stuff out of the past that maybe you missed or something you need to work on. That's what I'm doing right there this week here. But now we got to get down to it. Let's get down to the album of the week. All right, album of the week time. And I guess I went to Motley Crue this week. I might as well pick out a Motley Crue album. I said, what's my favorite Crue album? Went through them all. I'm really partial to that late 90s Greatest Hits album. I listened to that a lot in high school, so I did like that one a whole lot. Greatest Hits, though, but that's not a true album. I have to go to Shout at the Devil. Of course, you get the Helter Skelter in there. That's what gets you, especially being a young Beatles fan. Oh, Motley Crue did Helter Skelter. Let me check that out. Of course, Red Hot. A lot of classics on Shout at the Devil. And Motley Crue, one of those bands, like most bands, a little bit of up, a little bit of down, but I've enjoyed most Motley Crue stuff, especially the early stuff. And like I said, that Greatest Hits had some new songs on there, like Bitter Pill, I think, was on there. I like that song as well. So I do go back to Shout at the Devil. Of course, Motley Crue these days, a little bit different. I know they get blasted a lot, especially about Vince Neil's voice, you know, every other word singing it. That definitely gets old, and I think most people do agree with that. But with John 5 in the band, as much as I love Mick Mars, and a lot of people are mad about the whole Mick Mars thing, I get it. It didn't go down perfectly. But let's be honest, Mick wouldn't be touring. He couldn't tour anymore. That's why he's out of the band. He can't tour. He just can't do it. He could do a show here and there, but he couldn't do these tours. So what do? And everybody's got to make money. And, you know, you can say, well, they got enough money. Well, what's enough money? Somebody could tell you, you got enough money. And you'd say, wait a minute, I need more money. And that's just the way it goes. You don't know what their expenses are, so they're going to keep trucking along. They had to find a way, and they found John 5, which, if you're familiar with John 5's work, go back to the Halford years. Oh, Rob Halford, among many other things. John 5, a pretty good guitarist, I think most people would say. And a nice guy, as we said, and we'll talk a little bit more of that on Weekly Purchases tomorrow. But it is interesting to see where all these bands go. I mean, Jack Russell died of Great White. A lot of these guys aren't making it out the other side. And how are they continue? What are they doing? Are they going to run tracks? Are they going to bring extra musicians in? What are they going to do? Because nobody retires. Nobody retires except me. Once I hit 50,000 subscribers, it's time to retire. It's time to call it a career. We'll see what happens when that day comes. More on that sooner rather than later, but a lot going on. A lot going on in Album of the Week, Shout at the Devil. But what was your Album of the Week? Want to hear it in the comments down below. What were you rocking out to? Let me know. Or maybe you were just taking it easy like a young Frankie Valli these days. You seen Frankie? That's what you want to be. That's what you want to be. But let me know your thoughts on that, and let me know your thoughts on the toy news this week. What are you doing? What are you picking up? You getting that lino? Are you getting 4 of these Green Lanterns? Are you ready for a Guy Gardner with Todd's toes in your mouth? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. You made it this far. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Turn on the old notification bell. We got videos every single day. Of course, Patreon, early access to both YouTube channels, all the glamour shots, all the videos early. You name it, Q&As, giveaways. It's all over there for you on Patreon. And you do support the channel. Appreciate that. PersonTees.com, search Kyle Peterson. Don't forget the book, The Complete Guide to the Jakks Classic Superstars series, available over there on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Kindle edition around the corner. Maybe. Stay tuned for that. And of course, Sir Paul64 on the X, _Kyle_Peterson on Threads, and on Instagram. So you know what I'm doing? I'm rocking and rolling, strutting and strolling my way into another weekend.